This is the Legal Survival Show, and I'm attorney James Hirsen, and welcome. You know, I know you've been coming each week to this different kind of talk show. Yeah, we talk about the law. We do. And we talk about what's happening in the world, you know, the fallen world, and we try to help you make the right decisions for your freedom, your family, your money, your property, your privacy, most of all, your faith. And, you know, we're not looking for anything clients, but we are looking for supporters because this is listener-supported radio that's brought to you by a nonprofit organization. And look, we want you to have access to the best information. So you know what? Most of it we give away at the website at www.legalsurvival.org, legalsurvival.org. And there's a toll-free number. Many of you have left comments and questions, 888-260-4460. That's 888-260-4460. And look, I have to always tell you this, I mean, because I'm a lawyer and a law professor, that this kind of a show, and it's always true of these legal shows, it's for general educational purposes, not to take the place of the kind of information you'd get from a professional attorney in your area. There's no attorney-client relationship being created, and no radio show is a substitute for that attorney-client relationship. And look, we're on a station, KBRT, which is a Christian station. That gives us an advantage. Actually, we have more freedom than a secular station. We can refer to the Creator, acknowledge the Creator. And what we're going to be able to do on this show, which is really important for Christians, we're going to be able to warn you about people that want to take advantage of you. You know, we call this section a 3D alert simply because it stands for the 3 Ds that we see in these scams. It's a scam alert. We see people out there who are trying to deceive, defraud, and even destroy you or your finances. And that's the kind of thing that we're going to have in the next segment. Also, we're going to hear some stories about people who were defrauded. And we're going to explore an area of the law that relates to this kind of scam. You know, it's where free expression and public protection intersect. You know, sometimes we have these moral dilemmas in the world because we live in a fallen world. We have a Christian perspective. And so I just want you to stay tuned because I just want to give you this valuable information and also ask you to keep tuning in. By the way, we're on iTunes. If you search Legal Survival Show on iTunes, you can subscribe to our podcasts. We're also up on YouTube. You know what? If you go to YouTube and search Legal Survival Show, that will come up. And we're on Twitter and Facebook. You know, we're utilizing the social media to get this information out there. So what I want you to do, this is James Hirsen. I want you to stay tuned. Remember the number to call for comments, questions. If you want to support the show, it's toll-free, 888-260-4460. That's 888-260-4460. This is James Hirsen. We'll be back in a moment.
James Hirsen will be right back with more of the Legal Survival Show.
You can help keep the vital information of the Legal Survival Show on the air. This show is a public service of the nonprofit Justice and Freedom Fund. We want you to have the access to the best information that's necessary to make informed decisions for yourselves and your families. Please help support this different kind of talk show designed to help you with the must-have tools you need to protect your family, finances, property, privacy, and freedom. Please visit the website at legalsurvival.org and click the tab at the top of the page that says Donate. You can make a one-time donation or become a regular supporter, and of course any help you provide is greatly appreciated. And check the site often for special free gifts. That's legalsurvival.org. Please help us continue to bring the show into your homes and workplace by visiting LegalSurvival.org, or if you prefer, you can call toll-free 888-260-4460. That's 888-260-4460. 888-260-4460.
This is James Hirsen with the Legal Survival Show. And as I promised, sometimes in living in a fallen world, a Christian and a non-Christian finds themselves dealing with things that they wouldn't have expected. People who want to take advantage of you, scams, cons, people who want to take your money, usually, but sometimes it's your property, but it affects your life, and more importantly, it affects the life of your family. Well, here's a segment where we're going to take an in-depth look at one of these scams.
The 3D Alert.
The 3D Alert. Why do we call it that? Because there's these people in a fallen world who want to deceive you. They want to defraud you. They want to destroy you. And what kind of 3D alert do we have today? It's the Mugshot website scam. Mugshots. Now, first of all, we got to explain, most of the people listening to this program have never had their picture taken in what would be called a mugshot. But you've seen them if you read tabloids or you go online, or even if you watch television. You'll see them on the news. You see them on, of course, the crime dramas. And a mugshot is what happens when a person gets arrested. Routinely, a photo is taken for the arrest record. The problem is some people have obtained mugshots through a piece of legislation called the Freedom of Information Act. And that's set up for journalists and citizens to get information from the government, but they've gotten mugshots of people who ended up never being charged in many cases, people who never were taken to trial, people who never were convicted. They stick them online, and they use them as a form of blackmail. I mean, they let the person know that their picture's online, and they tell them, well, we'll remove it for you if you pay blank, usually several $100s. Now, you can imagine this is lucrative. People are making money. And there's a question now of how to deal with this. Now we see some politicians trying to pass legislation. As a matter of fact, it's become so big that large news organizations like ABC News are covering it.
Tonight, a closer look at an internet business that's thriving. Websites cashing in on mugshots. They charge hefty fees promising to take them down, but the pictures may never go away, even if the person is innocent.
Yes, and that's the point. Many of these people are innocent. Websites cashing in on mugshots for very hefty fees. But the problem is, even if the fee is paid, the pictures may never go away. And look, we've seen these mugshots, famous people typically who get arrested. The mugshot is plastered everywhere. I think there's websites that now showcase mugshots of celebrities. But this is not about celebrities. This is about ordinary folks booking photos from arrest records. And what happens, of course, is that these things come up when somebody does a Google search pursuant to a job interview. You could just imagine for the rest of one's life. It can be devastating. There are real victims that are involved in this. And, well, you need to hear some more details from the ABC News broadcast.
They're pictures of people in their worst moments, in their mugshots, and not just celebrities. The websites that showcase them are now a dime a dozen. and charging everyday people hefty fees to take the photos down.
Once something gets on the internet, that booking photo, that mugshot photo is going to haunt you for the rest of your life.
They legally download what police call booking photos from online arrest records, saying they're providing a public service and that laws allow these records to be shared with the public.
This is something that creates real victims. And a young woman named Sophia Andrade, I mean, she ended up having her mugshot put up after her record was cleared, and was victimized in such a brutal way. Take a listen to this.
I don't know. I just don't know how to express in words how devastating this has been for me.
Sophia Andrade says it feels like she's been violated twice. First by the husband who in divorce papers she claims repeatedly hit her.
There you are.
Then by the mugshot industry, which legally published these booking photos from what she says was a false arrest after police were called to her home. She says she sent them proof showing her record was cleared and was still asked to pay nearly $400 to have the photos removed.
It's not just that I take my photograph down on this site, it comes down on this site and it pops up somewhere else over and over and over again. So when does it stop?
In this instance, you know, you did nothing wrong.
I'm not a criminal. I'm not charged with anything.
And that's the point. People who are innocent are being victimized. And, it's understandable that some good-hearted people in various legislative bodies across the nation would want to take action with these kinds of victims. In another case, there was a 29-year-old man who was arrested on charges of very serious charges of indecent exposure. The charges were dropped. His arrest record was expunged, which means it was eliminated. But these website people got a hold of the booking photos and put it up on the web and held him hostage for the money. So you can imagine plenty of people will pay the money. So what has happened, as I said, is that there's in Florida, in other states, they're coming up with legislation, but there's a problem with the legislation. Simply because how do you regulate pictures of people who have been arrested on the web without affecting First Amendment rights and especially freedom of the press? We think of free speech, but remember, freedom of the press is something that focuses on the public's right to know. So those websites I talked about earlier where there are pictures of celebrity mugshots, well, what if it was a politician mugshot? What if it was your congressman's mugshot? You would certainly want to know. And thus, the First Amendment right for you to know, which is the right of a free press, would be infringed on. So it's very difficult to legislate. And that's something actually we're going to talk about in the next segment as we continue on the Legal Survival Show. By the way, I want to remind you, our website, and where we have lots of wonderful, free, valuable information, is www.legalsurvival.org. And our number where you can leave a comment, a question, thoughts, or your desire to support the show is toll-free, 888-888, then 260-4460, 260-4460, toll-free 888-260-4460. This is James Hirsen, the Legal Survival Show, and I'll be right back.
Don't forget to visit LegalSurvival.org. James Hirsen will be back in a moment. Stay tuned.
You can help keep the vital information of the Legal Survival Show on the air. This show is a public service of the nonprofit Justice and Freedom Fund. We want you to have the access to the best information that's necessary to make informed decisions for yourselves and your families. Please help support this different kind of talk show designed to help you with the must-have tools you need to protect your family, finances, property, privacy, and freedom. Please visit the website at legalsurvival.org and click the tab at the top of the page that says Donate. You can make a one-time donation or become a regular supporter, and of course any help you provide is greatly appreciated. And check the site often for special free gifts. That's legalsurvival.org. Please help us continue to bring the show into your homes and workplace by visiting legalsurvival.org, or if you prefer, you can call toll-free 888-260-4460. That's 888-260-4460. 888-260-4460.
I don't need no doctor, 'cause I know what's ailing me.
It's the Legal Survival Show, and this is James Hirsen here on KBRT, 740 AM. And we've been talking about a scam that's going on out there. But there's something with preventing the scam that brings up the law, and we're going to cover that in a segment right now.
The legal issue of the week.
Yes, and first of all, I have to remind you what we were talking about in our 3D alert in the last segment is this internet business, if you want to call it a business. But the problem with it's a scam, and the problem is whether or not this scam is illegal. So this is the idea that websites are cashing in on booking photos when people are arrested. They're called mugshots, and they charge big bucks when in order to get them taken down from the internet. I mean, as I said in the last segment, it's so big that even ABC News is covering it.
Tonight, a closer look at an internet business that's thriving. Websites cashing in on mugshots. They charge hefty fees promising to take them down, but the pictures may never go away, even if the person is innocent.
It's a problem. And it's something that it's difficult for the police to deal with because there's not a legal framework that makes it a clear crime the way most of these people are operating. They're getting the photos legally through the Freedom of Information Act. They're putting them up on the web legally, and when you're arrested, you sort of lose the right to that photo. It becomes public record, theoretically. So, that sort of explains the reason. I guess we should take another look at some of the coverage on this subject of the mugshot scam.
They're pictures of people in their worst moments, in their mugshots, and not just celebrities. The websites that showcase them are now a dime a dozen and charging everyday people hefty fees to take the photos down.
Once something gets on the internet, that booking photo, that mugshot photo is going to haunt you for the rest of your life.
They legally download what police call booking photos from online arrest records, saying they're providing a public service and that laws allow these records to be shared with the public.
So a good example of how lawmakers are trying to do this, deal with this, is down in Florida, where a law is being proposed that would force a website to remove any pictures of people who request their mugshots be taken down, if in fact their charges have been dropped or they are exonerated. Now, the way the law reads, the mugshot would have to be removed within 15 days of an eligible person's request, and it would have to be done for free. That's certainly a lot better than these blackmail guys who are charging the big bucks, hundreds of dollars in many cases. And here's a problem in the law. It says there's a presumption of defamation of character. Well, that's a problem because defamation of character is a legal concept that is determined by a court. And even though innocent people are being victimized through this scam, this kind of a law impinges on the First Amendment. And that's our legal issue. You see, The First Amendment does not allow the government to regulate or to muzzle speech or content on the web just because it is distasteful or it makes people uncomfortable. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Because what the First Amendment is designed to protect is expression that makes people uncomfortable. Now, it's not an unlimited concept. There are limitations. We know some of them. You know, you can't commit slander. That's defamation of character. You can't commit fraud. There's limits. We know that obscenity is illegal, although its definition is becoming narrower and narrower, and that's a whole nother subject. But the problem with mugshot websites is, it, as I mentioned, it deals with the freedom of the press in addition to freedom of speech. So whenever government tries to regulate speech and they end up regulating what would be protected by the First Amendment, along with speech that shouldn't be protected, they end up having something that gets struck down. And here's the problem. I mentioned that thing had a presumption of defamation. That would end up unconstitutionally changing the burden of proof. Remember, it's the prosecution that always has the burden of proof, and you've heard it in all these shows. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a heavy burden. We want to have a heavy burden in criminal law because we don't want to take away somebody's liberty or their life with some flimsy evidence. The evidence has to be as strong as possible. Beyond a reasonable doubt is as close to 100% as possible. It's 100% minus a reasonable doubt. Now, mugshots could be illegal. They could be used illegally, but that is something that has to be determined on a case-by-case basis. You know what the law calls this? When in a city council or a state legislature or Congress passes a law and it is something that takes in too much speech, it's dealing with speech and it takes in too much, they call it overbroad, because it would end up penalizing productive speech. Kind of reminds me of what happened in a municipality I know. Think of a small town, and what they wanted to do was protect the children from some resident who had put a statue in front of his house of a female without clothing. You know, I guess another word for that, scholarly term, is naked. So there's a naked statue. So they banned all naked statues from outdoor display in the town of X. I won't say the name of the town. It is in California. But here's the problem. What about the Museum of Art that may have a Venus de Milo statue, a reproduction of a statue of David? You see, this is the problem. Speech is it's a very difficult area when government gets involved with passing statutes. So there's going to have to be some very careful legal research done in this area. But perhaps the most important thing for the listeners of the Legal Survival Show is, first of all, the first step in preventing a mugshot scam is to never get a mugshot. So the first step is don't get arrested. Live your life so pure that you never get arrested. And I know what you're going to say. Now some of you have had this happen in their life. There are people who are arrested wrongfully. Mistaken identity, somebody that went into the wrong neighborhood and the cops misbehaved, which does happen. So in a situation like that, it's going to be very, very hard for you to deal with this if, in fact, though, you are contacted by someone who says that your mugshot is up online, of course what you have to do is immediately call your local law enforcement and discuss it with them. And also, this is a time to call a lawyer because it may involve threatening civil action in order to get that mugshot taken down. Now, this is assuming that you have a mugshot that is moot, meaning that you were exonerated, later expunged, that you were not convicted of the crime. Then it's going to be very, very difficult. All right, this valuable information is brought to you by the Legal Survival Show. And remember, the number to call is 888-260-4460. If you have comments or thoughts, that's toll-free, 888-260-4460. This is James Hirsen, the Legal Survival Show. We'll be back in a moment.
It's the Legal Survival Show with James Hirsen. James Hirsen.
Please help keep the Legal Survival Show on the air. This radio program is a public service of the nonprofit Justice and Freedom Fund. If you appreciate what you're hearing, visit the website legalsurvival.org and click on the tab at the top of the page that says Donate. You can make a one-time donation or become a regular supporter. And of course, any help you can provide is greatly appreciated. Check the sites often for special free gifts as well. Help us continue bringing the show into your home and workplace by visiting legalsurvival.org. You can also call toll-free 888-260-4460. That's 888-260-4460.
And we're back at the Legal Survival Show. This is James Hirsen. And, I want to remind you again, if you have comments or questions, give a call to our toll-free message line. That's toll-free, 888-260-4460, 888-260-4460. And, of course, our website, www.legalsurvival.org, legalsurvival.org. I want to thank all of you for listening each and every week here at the Legal Survival Show. And I want to thank ABC News for those sound clips on this subject that we went through today about the mugshot scams. And just remember, we'll be back next week at the same time. And what we're going to do, as usual, is bring you justice with a capital J.